Inside the NSA, where getting hired required swearing an oath to your country and signing a vow of secrecy under the penalty of law, the very concept of what Edward Snowden did was hard for many to grasp. General Keith Alexander felt he had a big stake in understanding Snowden. So he and Rick Legend, who runs the Snowden Task Force, got on a plane to Hawaii. They wanted to see the scene of the crime, Edward Snowden's desk.
The story will continue in a moment.
Did you sit in his chair?
I did not. Couldn't bring myself to do that.
For Legend, the trip was important to understanding who Snowden was. And going back through the bits and the bytes, they discovered the first secret Snowden stole was how to cheat on a test to get a job at the agency.
He was taking a technical examination for potential employment at NSA. He used his system administrator privileges to go into the account of the NSA employee who was administering that test, and he took both the questions and the answers and used them to pass the test.
At home, they discovered Snowden had some strange habits.
He would work on the computer with a hood that covered the computer screen and covered his head and shoulders so that he could work and his girlfriend couldn't see what he was doing.
That's pretty strange, sitting at your computer, kind of covered by a sheet over your head and the screen.
Agreed.
We also learned, for the first time, that part of the damage assessment considered the possibility that Snowden could have left a bug or virus behind on the NSA's system, like a time bomb.
So all the machines that he had access to, we removed from our classified network. All the machines in the unclassified network, and including the actual cables that connect those machines, we removed as well.
This has to have cost millions and millions of dollars.
Tens of millions, yes.
While Edward Snowden's leaks have been a disaster for the agency, the rest of NSA's mission has not slowed down.
Meanwhile, the Pakistani government has asked the U.S. government to relook its drone policy.
Twice a week, under the dim blue lights of the NSA's Operations Center, the director is given a briefing.
Sir, we added 3 new hostage cases this week.
With his deputy, Chris Inglis, General Alexander listens to a rundown of global issues and international crises the NSA may be asked to collect intelligence on.
Sir, moving to Afghanistan.
The meeting is called the stand-up because no one sits down, which is almost a metaphor for the pace of daily life in the NSA Operations Center. Howie Larrabee is the center's director.
This is a 24/7 operations center. We haven't had a day off, we haven't had a Christmas off, and we haven't had a major snowstorm off in more than 40 years.
While the Operations Center grapples with terrorist plots and war zones, another team of analysts is monitoring what the agency says is the rising threat of a cyber attack that could take down anything from the power grid to Wall Street. Could a foreign country tomorrow topple our financial system?
I believe that a foreign nation could impact and destroy major portions of our financial system, yes.
How much of it could we stop?
Well, right now it would be difficult to stop it because our ability to see it is limited.
One they did see coming was called the BIOS plot. It could have been catastrophic for the United States. While the NSA would not name the country behind it, cybersecurity experts briefed on the operation told us it was China. Deborah Plunkett directs cyber defense for the NSA and for the first time discusses the agency's role in discovering the plot.
One of our analysts actually saw that the nation state had the intention to develop and to deliver, to actually use this capability to destroy computers.
To destroy computers.
To destroy computers. So the BIOS is a basic input-output system. It's like the foundational component firmware of a computer. You start your computer up, the BIOS kicks in, it activates hardware, it activates the operating system, it turns on the computer.
This is the BIOS system which starts most computers. The attack would have been disguised as a request for a software update. If the user agreed, the virus would have infected the computer. So this basically would have gone into the system that starts up the computer, runs the systems, tells it what to do.
That's right.
And basically turned it into a cinder block.
A brick.
And after that, there wouldn't be much you could do with that computer.
That's right. Think about the impact of that across the entire globe. It could literally take down the U.S. economy.
I don't mean to be flip about this, but it has a kind of a little Dr. Evil quality to it, that I'm going to develop a program that can destroy every computer in the world. It sounds almost unbelievable.
Don't be fooled. There are absolutely nation states who have the capability and the intentions to do just that.
Based on what you learned here at NSA, would it have worked?
We believe it would have, yes.
Is this anything that's been talked about publicly before?
No, not to this extent. This is the first time.
The NSA, working with computer manufacturers, was able to close this vulnerability, but they say there are other attacks occurring daily. So the NSA has hired 3,000 young analysts as part of cyber defense. 3 of those analysts, Morgan, Charles, and Natalie, describe to us how countries like China, Russia, and Iran use social engineering to get inside a network. They're looking for a disguise to get in.
Exactly, yes.
And at what point will they ask the question that will cause the adversary to hand over that vulnerability?
So if I want to craft a social engineering message to lure you in so that it could potentially steal your username and password to gain access to a network, I may go on your Facebook page and see if you like golfing. So if you like golfing, then maybe I'm going to send you a email about a sale at a big golf retailer near you.
So you're trying to develop that little box that's irresistible, that
Correct.
the person has to click on and open because they need to see what's inside.
Right.
And that is going to let loose all the gremlins that are going to take over whatever they're capable of taking over.
Yeah, that's their door in.
The other real trick is it's not necessarily one email. It could be 50 emails. In the new cyber paradigm, you can fail 50 times. You can ignore 50 emails. But if that 51st one is clicked, then that's it, game over.
But before computers, before phones, there were codes. The NSA was born out of the code breakers of World War II, and even today, the most secret room inside the most secret building at the NSA is called the Black Chamber. This is where the nation's top code breakers work. We were able to look inside, but for obvious reasons, the NSA asked us not to show the people who worked there. Outside the Black Chamber is this ordinary-looking file cabinet, but it can only be opened with a code known by a handful of people. Bob, who watches over it, explains it holds the records of the codes America has broken over the last 60 years. If I was Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, would I want what was inside there?
You would be greatly interested in what's in this box. This would be the Ark of the Covenant.
When you walk around the NSA research building, where the code breakers work, you see some very young people and very smart people. How long would it take you to do this?
About a minute.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Go.
Go.
Many of the cryptologists skipped grades in school, earned master's degrees and PhDs, and look more like they belong on a college campus than at the NSA.
Yes.
Actually, the Rubik's Cube took him 1 minute and 35 seconds. You know, I didn't like you before. For this group, the Rubik's Cube was the easiest problem that day.
So the idea here is we're looking at a sequence of numbers and we want to determine whether they're random or not random.
How are you approaching that? Can you show me?
Yeah, we're looking at this data right here, and it's a bunch of random numbers on the screen.
That looks a tad overwhelming.
It is.
Can you actually imagine solving this?
Definitely. We solve hard problems all the time.
Is there an unbreakable code?
Theoretically, yes. There's always been an unbreakable code.
Chris Inglis is the deputy director of the NSA. Among the areas he supervises are the code breakers. He says each summer, 10,000 high school students apply for a few openings.
We clear them fully. We give them full access to our problems. We give them problems that we could not solve, and they solve some number of those problems. Principal reason being that they bring a different perspective and audacity to it that we hadn't thought about in all the years of experience that we'd brought to bear.
So you've had occasions where you've given a difficult problem to a high school kid with a top secret clearance who's come back and said, hey, I think I got this one?
It's, for any given summer, that's more often the rule than the exception. We're always pleasantly surprised.
While high school kids on summer break may be cracking secret codes, this is still a spy agency that steals secrets, reads emails, and listens to foreign leaders' phone calls. Among the Snowden leaks, perhaps the most embarrassing for the White House was that the NSA monitored some of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's cell phone calls. But General Alexander says the NSA doesn't choose who to spy on. They target the subjects and the countries that other U.S. agencies, including the State Department, ask for intelligence on.
That's one of the ones that the White House and I think our principals are looking at. What is the appropriate measures? What should we do, and what are we going to stop doing? From my perspective, when we look at that, it has to be both ways. Our country and their country has to come to an agreement to do the same. It can't be either way.
Does that mean that we'll just agree to stop spying on everybody, including our friends, if they'll all agree to stop spying on everybody, including us?
Well, I think that's got to be part of the negotiation, and I think that's fraught with concern. What do you mean by stop spying?
Do you think Chancellor Merkel hears President Obama's calls?
Well, I don't know, but I know they have a great intelligence capability and that they collect foreign intelligence just like we do.
This week, the CEOs of 8 major internet providers, including Google, Apple, and Yahoo, asked the president for new limits to be placed on the NSA's ability to collect personal information from their users. One of the Snowden leaks involved the concept that NSA had tunneled into the foreign data centers of major U.S. internet providers. Did the leak describe it the right way?
No, that's not correct. We do target terrorist communications, and terrorists use communications from Google, from Yahoo, and from other service providers. So our objective is to collect those communications no matter where they are. But we're not going into a facility or targeting Google as an entity or Yahoo as an entity. But we will collect those communications of terrorists that flow on that network.
Sources tell 60 Minutes the President's Intelligence Review Panel will recommend new limits on the bulk collection of U.S. phone records, which concerns General Alexander. After all of this controversy, you could come out of this with less authority than you went into it. What does that say?
Well, my concern on that, especially what's going on in the Middle East, what you see going on in Syria, what we see going on Egypt, Libya, Iraq, it's much more unstable. The probability that a terrorist attack will occur is going up. And this is precisely the time that we should not step back from the tools that we've given our analysts to detect these types of attacks.
How did 60 Minutes get its cameras into a spy agency? John Miller talks about it on 60minutesovertime.com.